Yo, what's up, everyone, and welcome to the Locked On 49ers Squad Show. I'm your host, Eric Triple E Ingle, joined by Dwayne Board and Brian Peacock. And today, we got to discuss the 49ers. The injury bug has returned. How will they respond?
Hey, and I'm going to talk today about the quarterbacks, okay? It's a game of backups, okay? Whose backup is better? All right, you got Matt Jones and Spencer Rattler. Spencer Rattler thought he should have been a number one pick, but he's right where he is, a backup playing for the New Orleans Saints and starting. So it's going to be an interesting game.
It's all about replacements, I guess. Today, Jake Moody's out, Eddie Pinheiro in. Are we more confident now if this game comes down to a field goal?
Locked On 49ers Squad Show starts right now.
To all the faithful, it's the 49ers Squad. Everything San Francisco 49ers every week. Covering all the big hits and game-changing plays from Levi's Stadium. The way only the Locked On Podcast Network can. For those faithful to the Bay, the 49ers Squad Show starts now.
Hey, everyone, this is the Locked On 49ers Squad Show. Thanks for joining us on the Locked On 49ers YouTube channel, or if you're listening on the Locked On 49ers podcast feed, appreciate you tuning in there. Make sure you're subscribed. If you aren't already subscribed, what are you doing? We got four-time Super Bowl champion Dwayne Board here. What are you doing not being subscribed? And Brian Peacock, host of the Locked On 49ers podcast. I am Eric Triple E Ingle, and the Niners got off on the right foot after that win in Seattle, but it wasn't without some lingering effects. A lot of news in the wake of that game. Let's start with Jake Moody, because this is something that I feel like really touches a nerve with all 49ers fans. We also got to get to the quarterback today. I mean, you can't talk the NFL without talking quarterback. But this Jake Moody thing, this might be the only time in the history of ever that a kicker situation really like becomes this big of a deal, right? Like, Jake Moody has missed so many kicks with his time or during his time here in San Francisco, and the Niners cut him today. They bring in Eddie Pinheiro, and or cut him earlier this week. They bring in Eddie Pinheiro, and they sign him. They brought him in for a workout, a former Carolina Panther, and we start to see some movement on the special teams. A big reaction from the 49er faithful, though. I know everybody collectively pretty much breathed a sigh of relief. I think all three of us have kind of been on the same page with being tired of the Jake Moody BS and drama, and thankfully we can finally turn the page on that. Brian, I saw that you had a whole discussion with former 49er long snapper Tabor Pepper today, and I'm curious, what insights did he give you into this Moody situation for those of us who have not had a chance to listen yet? I know I have not had a chance to listen. I'm sure plenty in our audience have not had a chance to tune into that as well. What was the big thing that you gleaned from that discussion with Tabor?
Yeah, and first of all, by all accounts, Jake Moody's a really good dude, and wish him the best in his career. Hopefully he gets that figured out, and he's got a really good leg. But yeah, he was just, especially since the injury last year, and I think the injury might have been a big part of why the numbers bear it out as well, that he really declined. And you just, the coaching staff felt the same way as the fan base. They just were not confident that he was going to put the ball between the uprights. And I urge everybody to go listen to that podcast with Tabor Pepper, former 49ers long snapper. Had some really good insights on Moody and why the move was made, and just all the intricacies in the specialist game that we don't really see. And they're off practicing by themselves in a separate part of the field when the rest of the football team is practicing. There's a lot of intricacies there, how guys snap the ball, where the laces are, how it's held, the techniques involved in all of it. And it all happens in a split second, and it's all got to be right to help that kicker kick. And the 49ers changed everything in the snapping and the holding game as well for Jake Moody. So I don't know if that was something that, made him feel even less comfortable this year than he was in years previous. But it's also fascinating. But in the end, there's no confidence in him making the kicks. And so I think there was no choice that the 49ers had to make a move, because it affected the way they called the game. And it affected Brock Purdy throwing balls that maybe he shouldn't be throwing, because he thinks that he has to go out there and win the football game, and he'd rather throw an interception than give his team a field goal opportunity. And you can't operate that way. And Dwayne, I know you feel that way. We talked about the kicker stuff a little bit before, but I mean, you can't operate if you feel so unconfident about your kicker that you have to change the way you play football.
You're exactly right. One thing can affect the game, and that's a small one thing. That like you said, when Brock Purdy, he feels like, hey, I got to make the play now because we can't depend on the kicker. Or you get Kyle Shanahan over there, don't know whether to go for it on 4th and 2, or do we bring the kicker in? It really plays a big effect on everybody that's involved in the game. And when he miss and he comes off to the sidelines, man, he's going to the bench and nobody wants to sit around him because, all eyes are on him because he got one job to do, and that's kick. But, going back to kickers, they're kind of like golfers, When you hurt yourself, and you have to make an adjustment in your swing, it's like a golfer. When he hurts himself, he starts slicing and doing whatever with the golf ball when he's trying to come off the tee, and it's really hard, and it's going to take him a while to regain his confidence, I mean, it just don't come by the blink of an eye. He's looking between those goalposts and says, hey, every time he looks up and he thinks about that one that he hit, the upright with, he's thinking about, man, these goalposts are getting closer and closer together, kind of like playing indoor arena ball. You got a 4 foot goalpost. You got to make it through.
Yeah, and like Brian said, hopefully Jake Moody has a landing spot somewhere else and he can revive his career elsewhere, because we have seen the big leg. I mean, this guy wasn't drafted in the 3rd round for no reason. It takes a lot of success at the collegiate level to be able to have an NFL team take a risk like that on you. And obviously it was a risk, and it was one that did not pay off for the 49ers. We've seen this a lot in the NFL. Teams drafting, maybe not a lot, but we've seen it before in the NFL. Teams drafting kickers kind of in the early rounds, and it just in recent years doesn't seem to have panned out. The one guy who I can remember or think of in my own head who did work out that was picked early was in my lifetime really was like Sebastian Janikowski, and I really can't think of many others. But it's a lot of pressure when you're a kicker that's coming in with some draft capital used on you. And you feel that pressure right away. And Jake Moody clearly crumbled under some of that pressure. But the talent's there. I mean, we've seen the leg strength. This guy can kick from 60 plus. I mean, we've seen it with our eyes. It's just it's like yips or something. I don't know, man, because he's missing 27 yarders and coming out and hitting a 50 plus. Like it's baffling to me, the mind stuff that's going on with Jake Moody. Kind of like Dwayne said, like a golfer. I think kind of like a relief pitcher in baseball, right? Like you got to have that same routine every day. Like you know exactly how much time you have to warm up before you're coming into a game, and you do those same exact things, that same routine. They're kind of weirdos. They got their weird little rituals that they get into, and maybe Jake just needs to find some new rituals, right? and just maybe that'll help him get back on track. So the 49ers.
If I'm hearing you correctly, you're saying the 49ers just need to go spend a 1st round pick on a kicker so that way they can really get it right. Is that what I'm hearing?
No. Absolutely not. Under no circumstances do I want to see the 49ers go and spend more draft picks on kickers, man. It makes no sense to me why you don't just go get some random old dude who's out coaching high school football somewhere who has shown in the past that he can kick in the NFL. Look what McManus just did on Sunday when he hit that game winner for the Bills. I mean, they just signed this guy 2 weeks ago off the scrap heap.
Prater,
Prater, not McManus. Prater, the other former Denver kicker. Excuse me.
Different, old kicker, right? Yeah,
exactly.
I'd much rather have a 40-year-old kicker than a 22-year-old kicker. I mean, you think about all the great specialists, whether it's punters, whether it's kickers, whether it's long snappers, they're much more likely to be good closer to 40 than they are closer to 20, right? It's just they're the bizarro running back. And I've talked about this on Lockdown 49ers. Running backs hit that wall around age 28, 29, right? That's when specialists just start to really get good.
Yeah, and I mean they're specialists for a reason, right? Like these are specialty skills that sometimes take a little bit longer to develop. You can't just rely on athleticism when you're out there trying to hit field goals, where as maybe in some other spots you can mask some of those technique shortcomings with just pure athleticism and strength, and you can't do that as a kicker or a punter. You gotta be precise, and Jake Moody was not very precise in his time with the 49ers. So they make the decision to move on to Eddie Pinheiro, who on his Pro Football Reference page says his nickname is Eddie De Niro. And Dwayne and I were just talking about this before the show. The last time that Eddie D that made you think of money was on the 49ers or associated with the 49ers. Those were some good times, man. So
wait a second. Wasn't Jake Moody's nickname Money Moody?
We you know, we're not going into that, you know. we're just going into the dinero, you know, dinero and money. I know they mean the same thing, but here it's patently different.
All currency.
All currency. But so we turn the page to Eddie Pinheiro, and he last kicked in Carolina. He has played in. I read a stat that I should have wrote it down earlier today, but I know that Pinheiro has played in like twice as many NFL games as Jake Moody or more, and has missed far less kicks in more than double the attempts. So you get a lot more accuracy with Pinheiro. You'd probably give up a little bit on the leg strength, but I think that's a perfectly okay trade-off. If we think back to the last kicker that the 49ers had that we all trusted, it was Robbie Gould. And Robbie Gould could not hit a 50-plus yard field goal to save his life, man. I mean, that leg wasn't the strongest foot out there on the field, that's for sure. But he was money inside of 50, really inside of 40, 48, 47. He was pretty money and did not miss a lot of those chip shots. And I would take if you could guarantee me right now that the 49ers aren't going to miss more than one, maybe two field goals from inside of 40 yards for the rest of the season, but you would also on the other side of that coin tell me that they're not going to hit one over 50, I'm taking that deal instantly, like instantly. It's what we've seen from Jake Moody. You cannot you cannot take those short chip shots for granted anymore, apparently, as a 49er fan. So as Brian said earlier, the 49ers kind of changed their style of play like mid-game in that game against the Seahawks. We saw them just abandoning any opportunities for longer field goals and just going for it on fourth and short in multiple occurrences against the Seahawks. So it's going to change, hopefully, how the 49ers are able to operate and maybe take some of that pressure off of Brock to be so perfect, right? Because if you don't feel like your special teams can win, it puts a little bit more pressure on your offense, on your defense as well. But it just puts the team in a really bad spot. And so hopefully shoring up this will be something that kind of helps smooth this team over. It's also something that has just been a pain point for this team over the last couple seasons. It's not just Jake Moody either, right? Like it's the muff punts. It's all the above. It's the giving up big kick returns in special teams, like seeing Laviska Shenault last year just torch the 49ers in kick returns. Just frustrating stuff, man. Frustrating stuff. So it's not just the one thing that will fix the special teams unit, but this is a step in the right direction, although it is tough that they're having to do this in the middle of the season. I would have loved to see the 49ers do this in the offseason, right? But I'm kind of curious. I was kind of thinking, like reading the tea leaves as to why they didn't make this move in the offseason. And to me, that would mean that they felt like there was not enough separation. Like they probably felt like they weren't going to get that much better by cutting Moody and going out and getting someone off of free agency or out of free agency. So Brian, a question to you. Do you think that this is really going to be that big of an upgrade for the 49ers, or is this more of just like a lateral move and you're just going to get just kind of like the next available guy just because this other guy has just worn out his welcome?
Yeah, I kind of equate it to when you break up with like a crazy ex-girlfriend. You just know that you're going to go on the next date and it's not going to be a fight. And that's all you really want, right? And so I think the 49ers will feel comfortable going out there. If Eddie Pinheiro makes a kick, I think everyone will kind of just relax. And that's all the team wants. And look, if you can't kick longer field goals, that's okay. You already know what the decision is going to be. If you get to fourth down and short and you're at a certain spot, it's like, cool, we're going to go for it now. And we know that based on the distance, not based on if we trust our kicker or not. So that's pretty important. And right. And really, Kyle Shanahan, the reason they drafted a kicker in the third round, he doesn't want to worry about special teams. I don't think he cares about special teams. He wants it to be handled. He's like, look, okay, Robbie Gould's gone. Who's the best kicker? Could just draft the best kicker so I don't have to worry about it. And that wasn't the best way to do it. And then so he goes out and hires a new special teams coordinator. He's like, I don't know. Bring in whatever punter and long snapper you want. Bring in your own gunners. They changed a ton of personnel. So far, it hasn't really come to fruition. They don't have a better special teams yet. But Kyle Shanahan just wants it to be better. Like, who do I have to hire? Who do I have to draft so I can forget about special teams and I can worry about what I really want to worry about?
Yeah, and it's been a saga, man. And real quick before we hit our break and move on from this, get into some Brock Purdy discussion. Dwayne, what as a former player, how does that lack of special teams, consistency weigh on your mind as someone on the defensive side of the ball and or on the offensive side of the ball? Even I know you played obviously defense in the NFL, but how does this impact a position player if you just can't trust your special teams unit?
Well, the biggest thing is what the locker room is thinking. You would think that, hey, in the locker room there was probably a lot of guys who was thinking that, hey, we got to do something about this kicker. We have to get better. And when you bring in someone else, the locker room, that mentality change. Because right now they're doing something about it. Okay. But when you're a defensive player and the guy's kicking it from the 45-yard line and he misses it, oh no, the field's shorter. So we got to go out and play on a shorter field rather than playing from the 20. We playing from the 48. We playing from the 45. That affects the defense. Because you want to have a long field. You want to have those DBs want as much grass as they can get behind them. They don't want to be on a short field. So that affects you big time. And then guys go out there, with their head down when that guy misses. You got to go out there with your head up saying, hey, man, we got this with a new kicker. So that's going to bring some more liveliness to the locker room. That's my feeling on it. They'll bring in somebody that, hey, he makes the first field goal. These guys say, all right, man, we got the guy now. Okay.
Yeah. And we did see some of that, locker room, it wasn't in the locker room, but we saw some of that frustration from 49ers players and how that can, those missed kicks can impact guys real time in the moment. We heard Pam Oliver's report during the 49ers Seahawks game that after that missed Jake Moody field goal, multiple players came to the sideline and slammed their helmets down in frustration. We saw the obviously last year the Deebo Samuel confrontation with Jake Moody. Like, this is something that it's spilled over from outside the locker room. And in my opinion, and Dwayne, you can speak to this too. If your locker room problems are spilling onto the field of play, that's got to speak to the degree of the issue and how much frustration is just mounting for these players. Because if you're aware when you're out there on the field that you're under the spotlight, under the microscope, you have a million cameras everywhere, looking at every single tiny thing that anybody on the field might do. If you're going to go to the sideline and slam your helmet down or get in a guy's face after he misses a kick, it's pretty public. And I think as a player in today's game, you're probably pretty aware of that. And if you make the conscious decision to go confront this guy or to throw your helmet on the ground in frustration and kind of in a way show the guy up, you're not doing that with no awareness that everybody sees this. And so for it to get to that point, I think you got to be all the way out on a guy that's bringing the team down like that. I don't think you do that to a guy who you're still backing in the locker room to Dwayne's point. And
you need when that happens, you need guys that go over and pat this guy on the back and give him some confidence. You don't want to show those low times of your emotions. You got to show that you're beyond that, and that's the thing that, like you said last week, that it showed, guys are throwing the helmets around and all of that. Man, other teams look at that, from across the field and say, hey, man, those guys, they're falling apart. We got them now. You don't ever want to show that weakness.
You know what else they didn't have back in the day is social media, which has to make it even more difficult and more stressful on someone like a kicker, where instantly 100,000 people instantly hate you when you miss your kick.
Yeah, you got 50 people on the sidelines, with phones and their cameras, they can't wait to get a story.
Yeah.
So the 49ers cut Jake Moody. They finally move on, and in comes Eddie Dinero Pinero. And we'll see if this makes the 49ers better. If it's a lateral move at the bare minimum, like what we're talking about here, I think it kind of galvanizes that locker room a little bit more around that special teams unit and maybe helps turn the page on some of those bad feelings left over from all of Jake Moody's missed kicks these last couple of years. So the 49ers also have some injury news. We've all heard it by now. Brock Purdy, George Kittle, and you also have the return of Kendrick Bourne to a very, very, very injured and suspended and just roughed up wide receiver core. So we got a lot of things to get into still in this show. Don't go anywhere here on the Locked On 49ers Squad show. We'll be right back. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. And I love using FanDuel because it fits however I like to bet. However I'm feeling that day, FanDuel, it accommodates. Player props, same game parlay, jumping in live, spreads, money lines, whatever you want, it's on FanDuel. It's all from the ease of your own home. You don't have to get all dressed up and head out to the sports book. You can do it right from your couch. So if you're ready to play, download the FanDuel app right now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. Welcome back to the Locked On 49ers Squad show. I'm your host, Eric Triple E Engel, joined by Dwayne Board, 4-time Super Bowl champion, and Brian Peacock, as always, holding it down as the host of the Locked On 49ers podcast. And we got to talk about some of this Brock Purdy stuff, right? Like almost never is the kicker news going to come before the quarterback news. Today, I kind of felt like that was just kind of the vibe of stuff going on around this team, even though it's like topic 1A and 1B, right? It's Brock Purdy, obviously the most probably the most important 49er. I would say the quarterback position is the most important position in all of sports, not just football. And if your quarterback's hurt, generally speaking, your backup isn't always, the most promising guy to turn to. It doesn't always fill you with confidence, but 49ers got Mac Jones back there, and we all know Kyle Shanahan, all the rumors about how enamored he was with Mac Jones coming out of college and all that kind of stuff. So my question to you guys, Brian, if you want to start first, how are you feeling about Mac Jones? Should he potentially have to start in place of injured Brock Purdy? And I feel like with what we've heard now, it's not completely set in stone yet that Brock won't play, but it sounds very much so like he's going to miss this one.
Yeah, long shot is the term thrown around there for the likelihood that Brock Purdy is going to play, and potentially even Brock Purdy out multiple weeks, according to Kyle Shanahan. They haven't made a roster move at quarterback yet, though, and they utilized that extra roster spot from George Kittle going to IR to add a tight end by the name of Messiah, by the way, phenomenal name, joining the 49ers. So they didn't use that roster spot for a quarterback. So I guess you can't quite close the door until they make an official roster move, because they're not going to just go into Sunday with one quarterback and Mac Jones. But as far as backups go, Mac Jones, one of the better backups in the NFL. We were kind of joking about it off the air, but Mac Jones, if he was a New Orleans Saint, would probably be starting for them. So really for me, the big thing with Mac Jones is the interceptions. And in the preseason action this year, threw an interception against the Raiders. We know that Kyle Shanahan really asks a lot of his quarterbacks in the middle of the football field to throw tight window throws, to throw with anticipation. And we've seen how that can turn into interceptions. We saw a couple of them with Brock Purdy last week. We've seen them a lot with Jimmy Garoppolo as well. And we used to call him the Jimmy Garoppolo pick. And then realized they're kind of Kyle Shanahan interceptions. You got to have guts. You've got to throw with anticipation. And those are two of the superpowers that Brock Purdy has. And while I think Mac Jones has a better arm, and maybe he can make some bigger throws, and we might see a few more fireworks from that regard from the 49ers offense, you can't throw the ball to the other team. In a game like this, where you're down a lot of players as well, it might be a lot closer game than we expected was going to be. This type of game in week 2 against the New Orleans Saints, because of what's going on with that football team. And they look like they were up to the challenge in week 1. And I don't think they're going to be pushovers in their house in week 2. And so it's really important for Mac Jones to not only play well, but just not turn the ball over. And if you look at his numbers from the last 3 years, 2 years in New England and 1 in Jacksonville. He has a nearly 1-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio, which is not going to fly. And you can't throw that many interceptions. And so that's why he's a backup right now. And I do think Kyle Shanahan really liked Mac Jones. I think it's preposterous that they would have actually traded up to number 3 to take him, but clearly he was at least the second choice and maybe even 1B to Trey Lance's 1A, which is also fascinating because the best quarterback of the 3 was actually Justin Fields, who was a distant third apparently for the 49ers, and he's proven to be the best guy. I don't know if he'd have been better than Trey Lance in Kyle Shanahan's offense. I think maybe, you could argue that Mac Jones is a better fit than Justin Fields for Kyle Shanahan because Justin Fields doesn't like to get the ball out very quickly and on time either. So I think there's an opportunity for Mac Jones to play really well, and I think he is a pretty nice fit for Kyle Shanahan. You just can't turn the ball over is the big one for me.
Absolutely. And the 49ers, as we were kind of joking, and Brian just referenced, aren't the only team starting a backup quarterback this week. The Saints have nothing but backup quarterbacks on that roster. Dwayne, how important is the 49ers defense going to be in this matchup against another team that's lacking a solid starting quarterback? I feel like if you don't have your quarterback, the best way to kind of level the playing field against the other team is to have the type of defense that will neutralize the other team's pass game, and you can kind of level out that field. Do you kind of feel the same way, Dwayne?
Yeah, I feel the same way. Against this quarterback, Spencer, he is a guy that he's only 6 foot tall for one thing, right? How you want to play him is keep him in the pocket, squeeze the pocket, make the pocket, tight for him, because he doesn't have confidence, and he doesn't know how to move around in the pocket also. You watch him, if you flush him out to his left, the guy's going to tuck the ball and run with it, okay? You never see him hardly throw the ball down the field when he has to roll out to his left. So I would work on keeping him in the pocket and forcing him to where he doesn't like to go, To me, it's like, this is a college game. You got South Carolina against Alabama, okay? So you're going to play the game like you're going to play a college game. You're going to take away his throws and force him to have to do something he don't want to do. That's run. And he doesn't really want to run. He was looking down the field all the time. And he's another guy that's going, I don't know how many interceptions he's thrown, but I saw him a few times in preseason. He's good at finding the other team's receivers. He might trust his, he's got a nice arm.
Yeah. He's got a good arm. He might trust it a little too much, though.
Yeah, he does have a nice arm, but I'm sure that the 49ers defense should be able to handle this guy. Even I'm gonna call it like this. I would probably say that defense might even score 2 touchdowns, so they don't need the offense. Just go out there and protect the ball. It's a two touchdown defense for the 2 touchdown defense for the defense. Okay.
There we go. How's that for a call? I love that, Dwayne. 2 touchdowns for the 49ers defense.
Defense,
Yeah, so if somehow the 49ers defense is still available in your fantasy league, Dwayne is telling you, go out and get them right now because they're going to get you 2 DTDs this week. So hopefully you're right. And Dwayne, I think you're 100% right. If the defense is able to stifle that New Orleans offense, and I think if they even are able to generate any amount of points from that defense, that they will probably win this game. The one thing that I am kind of curious about is Mac Jones' mobility, because we've seen Brock make a ton of off-schedule plays. We saw him just in his career with the 49ers, and we saw a lot more of that last week. And a lot of that is because this offensive line is not the best. It's got some holes, and we know that that's probably going to continue to happen as the year goes on, especially up the middle with Brendel, and that when you get that kind of pass rush up the middle, and obviously the Saints have Cam Jordan who can move all over that defensive line. Is by the way, also interesting note about former Cal Bear Cam Jordan. He's going to set the Saints record for most games played by a Saints player in team history, in franchise history, when he suits up against the 49ers this week. So that guy, and he's still playing like a man possessed. I mean, he had a great week in week 1, 1.5 sacks. I think he had like 3 tackles for loss in total. He was all over the place. So if the 49ers offensive line is going to be as porous as it was in week 1, and Mac Jones has to break the pocket and run and make these off-schedule plays, I don't know that he's going to do that at the same level as Brock. I know that Mac's somewhat mobile. I don't think he's as mobile as Brock Purdy, and I got to brush up on my on looking at my Mac Jones tape scramble drills, because I haven't seen enough of that to make a determination as to if I think he's going to be good in these situations or not. But that's just one thing that I'm concerned about, right? Like, you look at Mac Jones, he doesn't look like the most nimble guy, but he's got some extra padding on there, like me. I think that he could maybe absorb some contact back there and hang tough from some of those hits that will, I think, inevitably come through. But ultimately, I think that he's going to have to make a play or two out of the pocket on the run, like not a timing throw, like a broken play that it's going to come in a big moment. And if he can't make that play, might be a problem for the 49ers, because a lot of their offense kind of runs on these off-schedule plays right now.
It's funny. Mac Jones is built like a guy that would fit in better probably on our slow pitch softball teams than an NFL team with the way he looks. But surprisingly, he can get out and move a little bit. He's not as quick as Brock Purdy. He's not a playmaker like Brock Purdy is, but if he's forced out of the pocket, he can at least go, get you a first down. And so, hopefully if he's on the run, that's a bad sign for the 49ers, right? But I'm with you, man. The old guys are still playing well for the New Orleans Saints. Cam Jordan, linebacker Demario Davis.
Yeah.
They both still look good. And I mean, they're holdovers from the Drew Brees era still, right? And so they're still playing some of the best ball of anybody on that Saints football team right now. So kudos to the old guys, man. I'm for sure in old guy camp. I'm in old guy neighborhood. I'm always rooting for the old guys. I was rooting for Tom Brady to never retire. I was like, I liked having guys in the league that were still older than me. I don't think there's anybody left. There might be another kicker, a punter out there in his 40s, but I'm always rooting for the old guys.
Yeah, man. And it's going to be, it's going to have, I think this game defensively for the Saints, I think that's where there's going to be some potential for bad things to happen with the 49ers, right? Because if there's one thing that the Saints defense or Saints team can kind of hang their hat on identity wise, I think it is that defense. I think it used to be that run game with Kamara, right? But it's just not the same anymore. I think this team, their strength is in the defensive unit. But there is one more note that I wanted to get into. The Saints might have to start a rookie safety in this game because of some injuries that they had in week 1. So, I mean, inexperience, it comes back to haunt you, right? Like we were just talking about, being an old guy camp. So he's the Saints do have a lot of veteran leadership on that team, but there are going to be some spots where the 49ers can attack youth in that secondary. And with Mac Jones having to fill in for Brock Purdy, most likely, I think that's you need all the help you can get, right? Like it's not just like Mac is coming in and the 49ers are at full strength, right? George Kittle on IR. You still don't have this receiving core at full strength. Brandon Ayuk obviously still injured and Robinson still suspended. So you're not playing at your full strength. And Christian McCaffrey obviously it's still kind of like what the hell is even going on with that ankle, that calf? We don't really know. He had 31 touches last week. I'm sure it can't be feeling great at this point in time. So what the hell is Mac Jones going to do when he goes out there? One thing that the 49ers did do to kind of shore that up is they went out and got KB. The return of Kendrick Bourne. He's coming back and wearing the same number 84. And I think that will be a helpful piece for this team. I'm expecting Bourne to suit up this weekend. I don't see why he wouldn't. I mean, it's pretty much the same offense he left. He's going to, I think, fit in very, very nicely. And one thing that this does kind of send a little light on in the back of my head about, like, little warning alert flash is Juwan Jennings expendable now? I mean, we've heard Juwan Jennings kind of demand these trades throughout the offseason. I'm curious, do you guys think that do you think that the 49ers will even entertain that? And two, what do you think that they would get back for a Juwan Jennings if they did decide to move him now that they got KB in the building? Brian, let's go to you first.
I just, with the injuries and the personnel issues they've had, I don't think they can give up starting caliber players. So I think it's a very low chance that they would entertain trades right now, unless they were to, rattle off a whole bunch of losses and be really in, a terrible place at the trade deadline. But I also think there's a very, very low chance that he comes back in free agency to the 49ers. So I just think that deal they did, the 1-year deal, was pretty much to seal it. It's like, look, he's going to be here this year, and that's probably it. I still think at this point we might overrate what Kendrick Bourne is going to bring to the 49ers. I think I would rather have, aside from the rapport, because Mac Jones has thrown a lot of footballs to Kendrick Bourne. He's thrown more footballs to Kendrick Bourne than anybody else on the 49ers roster now. But Juwan Jennings is a better football player, and if he's healthy, I would expect him to get all the snaps, and Kendrick Bourne maybe to back things up. And by the way, last week, even with all the wide receiver injuries and even with Kendrick Bourne getting hurt, they didn't target a single other wide receiver in that game. 0 targets for Marquez Valdez-Scantling when he's in the game. 0 targets for Russell Gage when he was in the game. And so you got all these veterans. I just don't know that there's a big place for him except for break in case of emergency. That's the way I look at Kendrick Bourne right now. I think it's Ricky Pearsall and it's Juwan Jennings.
Yeah. And Dwayne, just curious what you think if the 49ers, let's just say hypothetically, the 49ers were able to or did move Juwan Jennings, what would you expect them to be able to get back from him? I would assume it's not going to be a whole lot, given what Brian just said. The fact that a lot of teams, I think, expect that this is going to be his last year.
I kind of agree with Brian. It's his last year, and teams are looking at right now. Well, how injured is he? Right now he's out with a shoulder, right? And how tough is he? It's one of those kind of guys, that he can walk through the locker room and slip on toilet paper, and he's hurt for 6 weeks. He's one of those kind of guys. But I think it'll be a very low pick, because teams are looking at, hey, and he should know in the back of his mind too. So they gave him money, right? They upped his ante, but now, hey, he's got to go out and prove that he's worth the money down the road in the future. You can't prove that when you're sitting on the bench with ice on your shoulder, or in the training room, 24/7. You can't show, you can't go on history. You can't go back 2 years ago and say, well, man, this guy was productive 2 years ago. Yeah, but we haven't seen anything from him in, over a year. So what would you do? I would say, hey, if I needed him in the crunch and I was trying to make a run for the Super Bowl, a team, I would offer him, 6th or 7th round pick for him, because that's all you're going to get.
Yeah, and the 49ers obviously used a 7th round pick on Juwan Jennings. I agree with both of you guys. I do not see the 49ers moving on from him. I just think it's something that we had to at least bring up, right? Because it's been such a it's been such a back and forth between Juwan and the 49ers front office for so long this offseason, and Juwan's been beating that drum, demanding that trade for such a long time, and John Lynch has very grumpily denied the plausibility of that. So. But we've seen plenty of times, front offices will sit there and say, we're absolutely not entertaining this. And then the next day you'll get the trade notification on your phone. The little push notification will pop up. So I feel like we just had to throw the possibility of it out there. But I do agree with you guys. I think that Bourne is not just going to come in here and be just enough by himself to kind of replace what Juwan Jennings offers to this football team. You also got to remember the level that this guy contributes in the run game as far as blocking on the edges and how highly the coaching staff of the 49ers puts importance on those types of skills in their wide receiver room. So I think that it's going to be a situation where you kind of see both guys mix in, do a lot of the same things. I think Bourne is going to back up Juwan Jennings the same kind of way that Brian was discussing. So we'll see how the 49ers fare with this receiver room and with Mac Jones at quarterback and with a not 100% Christian McCaffrey. Good thing that they got the Saints, man. That's all I got to say about this matchup this week. This is one that you could still win despite not having George Kittle or Brock Purdy. And I don't think there are too many matchups on the 49ers schedule where you can look at it and say, if they're down Brock and George, who are they going to beat on this schedule? I think this is one of maybe 2 teams on the 49ers schedule all season long that you could say they'd have a shot winning that game. So we got to hit a quick break here. But on the other side, as I just talked about, George Kittle also on IR. We talked about how he is one of the most important players on this 49ers football team to successfully keep them on schedule and doing the things that they like to do as an offense. How is this team gonna operate without him? We'll talk about that next. And just in general, we got to discuss some more of this matchup stuff against the Saints. We'll get into both of those things on the other side of the Locked On 49ers squad show, not postcast, Locked On 49ers squad show. Today's show is sponsored by Supply House. When the opening whistle blows on a new repair, get your crew moving forward with Supply House. Order today and see parts on your doorstep tomorrow. Over 280,000 plumbing, HVAC, and electrical items from the most trusted brands in the business. Their real-time inventory and honest lead times keep you from punting projects, while their industry-leading customer service always has your blind side covered. And I love that their free Trade Master program offers you so many perks, and it's free, man. Like, it's not like some subscription you got to pay for every month. Anything that you need, they're right there. And also the free Trade Master program, you get to talk to a real person every time you call their dedicated support line. So join that free Trade Master program today and score serious perks like priority shipping, lower pricing, and a dedicated support line. Visit supplyhouse.com to sign up for free and use promo code SHCollege5. That's SHCollege5 for 5% off your first order. Supplyhouse.com. Real people, real service. Welcome back to the Locked On 49ers Squad show. I'm joined by the squad, Dwayne Board and Brian Peacock here, and I'm your host, Eric Triple E. Engel. I almost said the Giants for a second time today. I got Giants on my mind because they lost earlier today, disappointing Bay Area fans everywhere in the midst of their playoff race. But the 49ers got playoffs on their mind as well. Even though it's early in the season, we talked about the importance of starting fast a few times so far in our squad shows, and the 49ers. They won last week against the Seattle Seahawks, but I don't think one win in the beginning of the season qualifies as a fast start. I think you got to string a couple together, and they'll have an opportunity to do that against the New Orleans Saints this weekend, but it's going to be tough, man. They're on the road in the Superdome, a tough place to play with a backup quarterback and no George Kittle. And I think that might be a really big thing in this weekend's game, because you look at how this offense moved with Kittle on the field in that one possession that they had, like their full strength, right, last weekend. And they went 95 yards, scored a touchdown, and George Kittle caught that touchdown. And when he left, Brock started, doing some jump passes and forcing some balls in there and just making some ill-advised throws that did not help out the 49ers too much. And now you got a backup quarterback in there. This starts to seem like a little bit of a problem to me, but again, it is the New Orleans Saints. You're going to be able to I think, make a few mistakes and still have a chance to win this game. So Dwayne, I want to go to you. How do the 49ers replace or kind of fill the gap that George Kittle's absence creates? I mean, it's not just a skill gap too. Like, it's not just like we don't have one of the best run blockers on this entire football team missing. We're missing basically wide receiver one for all intents and purposes. But it's also the energy, right? Like the vibe of a George Kittle on the sideline. When in your playing days, when you had that energy guy missing from your team on Sundays, how did that just that lack of, aside from the lack of skill, how did that lack of passion and energy affect teams that you've been on?
Well, you're going to get affected some, but with the situation that they're going into New Orleans. Okay. So that offense, the 49er offense, is going against the New Orleans Saints offense. But the biggest part of that is, hey, on defense, if I was Kyle Shanahan, I'm going to put my best blocker on the field, and guess who he is? He's number 44. So that means I'm going to play 20 personnel. So I'm going 20 personnel. You got 3 wide receivers and 2 backs in the game. And what did we see last week when they put the 4 back in the game? We saw who's getting the big runs. Okay, McCaffrey was picking them up more yardage. Okay, rather than to sit back and say, hey, we're going in the game with regular base personnel, which they play a lot of 2 wide receivers, a tight end or 2 tight ends, and 1 back. But they can't do it now. And when you get into 20 personnel, it puts a strain on defense. Man, it's hard. It's hard to match up, because you don't know where to play, base or nickel. So you're going to have some mismatches there somewhere, okay? So, and you got to look at the fullback. Hey, that guy got great hands. He can block, and also in protection too. You can keep him in to help give the quarterback a little bit more time. So with all of that said, how would you play him? Would you rather go in, play him with 4 wide receivers and 1 back, or, 1 tight end, 3 wide receivers? And it's you can mix a lot of things in, but hey, I would play 20 personnel against them all day long. I think that's our best matchup.
Yeah, some old school football, some fullback football, which we don't even see too many teams in the NFL these days with a fullback on the roster. But Juszczyk, I feel like, does a lot more. That he's probably the most versatile fullback, I would say, in the NFL. I don't feel like I'm making going out on a big limb here by saying that he, as Wayne said, he's a guy who can do some stuff for you in all phases of the game. He can help you with pass blocking, run blocking, catch the ball out of the backfield. We saw him do a little bit of all that last week. He can also run the ball himself too. We've seen him do that in his time with the 49ers. So I do think that would, kind of help open up some rushing lanes. I think the 49ers also got to kind of use Brian Robinson Jr. Probably a little more. Like, you got to level out those percentage of carries a little bit more, I think, with Christian McCaffrey and Brian Robinson. And maybe you just go out there and just try to do ultimate smash mouth football, and you just run right up the gut with B-Rob right behind Juice, and maybe you just start battering the Saints over the head with that just straight at your run game, and just go right back to the 80s style of football. That would be I don't think it's a bad idea for the 49ers, because they obviously, we've talked about the challenges the passing attack will face this week. But in general, it's gonna. I think the 49ers are gonna have to find success offensively in a different way than they found it last week. I'm not saying get away from the run game, but you can't have Christian McCaffrey touch the ball 31 times. And Brian, who's going to get those touches this weekend if not Christian McCaffrey, if the 49ers are still going to hope to win? Because it's not going to be George Kittle.
Well, knowing Kyle Shanahan, Christian McCaffrey might get 50 touches. And look, it's already unsustainable. Christian McCaffrey can't get 517 touches this year, which is, the pace that he's on. But Kyle Shanahan's trying to win the game each week, and that's why he always leans so much on his number 1 running back, and he's always done that, even before Christian McCaffrey. There's a game that Crocker always brings up on Locked On 49ers where Elijah Mitchell was, couldn't practice all week. He's hobbling around on, I think it was an ankle or something, and you don't even know if he's getting a game time decision. He ends up going out there and playing, gets 27 carries, right? And we're seeing the same thing right now with Christian McCaffrey, and he's such a big part of the offense. And Kyle's entire playbook is opened up by having him on the field, so you can see why he wants to have him on the field. So you can always say that he has to be easy with him and worry about the workload, but on Sunday he's trying to win a game, and I don't think he's ever going to see it that way. And Christian McCaffrey doesn't want to take himself off the field either. So we'll probably see a lot of Christian McCaffrey, and hopefully they're able to work in Brian Robinson. And look, the Saints are susceptible on the ground, and Kyle Shanahan has also proven that he's okay with going and winning a football game, throwing the ball 8 times like he did against the Packers in the playoffs, right? So it might be one of those. He's like, look, if we can run, we're going to keep on running. And but I agree with you. You gotta be smart about Christian McCaffrey, especially with all the other injuries on the roster. I don't think Brian Robinson looks super dynamic in game number 1, but he's still trying to figure out the offense. So hopefully, that grows for him as we go on through the season. And McCaffrey's so good out of the backfield too that maybe there's a way to get them both on the football field and still use Brian Robinson as a runner, use Christian McCaffrey a little bit more as a receiver, and limit some of his carries that way, because we know that receptions are more valuable than carries. And so I'd like the passing usage for Christian McCaffrey. I just don't want to see 9 catches plus 22 carries. And it's just, you're just playing with fire at that point. And but Kyle Shanahan wants to run the ball. Saints are susceptible. The Cardinals ran for 5.5 yards per carry against the Saints in week 1. That was probably the biggest factor in really winning that game against the Saints. And so I expect the 49ers to try to do the same.
Yeah, and the usage of Christian McCaffrey obviously is something that we talk about a lot, and we'll probably have to continue talking about all season long. And it's like Christian McCaffrey is that blanket for that safety blanket for Shanahan. And Shanahan's like that stubborn toddler that just won't let go of the blankie when you got to go to the grocery store or you're going to dinner at a friend's house and you're bringing the kids and you're like, just leave the blanket at home just this once. But no, it's got to come with you every single time. That's my analogy for Kyle Shanahan and Christian McCaffrey, the ultimate safety blanket. And you see why. I mean, he's a guy that you can give the ball to when your offense looks completely stagnant. You can just feed him and he will give you something and kind of start to get that offense back on track. He's so versatile, as Brian said, opens up the entire playbook. You can run any play with him out there. You can move him out wide. You can keep him in the backfield, use him as a decoy. You can do whatever you want to with this guy. You can throw it deep down the field to him, or you can hit him on a screen out of the backfield, and it's going to be effective either way. One of the most versatile players in all of the NFL. And obviously it hurts the 49ers that you don't have more playmakers around him right now, because teams can just tee off on him and just really key in on the Christian McCaffrey usage. So hopefully they are able to kind of use enough other looks offensively that it doesn't let the Saints just pin their ears back and just run right at McCaffrey every single time. And hopefully Mac's able to distribute the ball a little bit and get some things going with this passing game, so that it's not just, the 49ers turning around, 30 plus times and just handing the ball off to McCaffrey. I think that would be, you can still win the football game that way, but kind of like what you were alluding to, at what cost? There's a lot of other football games the 49ers are going to play this season, and hopefully in some bigger moments than week 2 against the Saints that they'll need Christian McCaffrey for. So it's going to be a challenge for the 49ers, I think, to find some kind of a rhythm offensively. Obviously, it's going to be a challenge when you don't have your number 1 wide receiver in Brandon Ayuk, your number 2 wide receiver in Robinson, your number 1 tight end, your best run blocker on the team in George Kittle, and your de facto number 1 with Ayuk out, your number 1 pass catcher. So it's a lot of attrition for the 49ers this week at the pass catcher position, but they'll have to figure it out, man. And I do think that it is going to be a run-heavy game, like you said, Brian. I was going to bring that up just now, but you beat me to it. The Cardinals were really, really good at running the football with Trey Benson and James Conner. So I like to think that Christian McCaffrey is going to have a little bit more success than Trey Benson did, although he was able to rip off a 52-yard rush, which accounted for a lot of those yards in that game. But I do think that the 49ers are gonna have to find some other looks. And looking at what Kyler Murray did last week as well, he wasn't super great. Did not find a lot of success against the Saints yardage wise, but he did throw a couple touchdowns. He was also sacked 5 times. So the Saints are gonna get after your quarterback. They're gonna make some licks on him, but hopefully the 49ers are able to do enough other things offensively that slow that Saints pass rush down and allow them to operate despite not having, their quarterback, their number 1 receiver, their number 1 tight end and best run blocker and best pass catcher with no Brandon Ayuk. And so an uphill battle, I think, in some ways for this offense, but the Saints are not, the creme de la creme of the NFC South. There's a lot of tougher opponents that the 49ers are going to face this year. So they'll have a chance to beat the Saints. And I'm curious what you guys think is the key in this one. If you had to pick one key to this game for the 49ers to win, Dwayne, let's start with you. What's that one key? What do the 49ers need to do to win this game?
Well, I'm going to pick, it's going to be Ricky on Kool-Aid, okay? The left corner, Kool-Aid. Why would you name your kid Kool-Aid? So that's my call. Hey, Kool-Aid is 5'11", and, well, they played against each other because Kool-Aid went to Alabama. So that's going to be my key. Ricky should have a field day on him. And I think, I'm not going to say I think, I know Ricky will get over 100 yards, I believe, against the Saints on Kool-Aid. So Kool-Aid is either going to be lime or it's going to be cherry flavored, whichever one you want to pick.
Yeah, man, I'm not a fan of that lime flavor Kool-Aid at all. That was my least favorite one as a kid. 100% of that.
I haven't tasted Kool-Aid in like 30 years, so I don't even know. what it tastes like anymore. But what's funny is they were in the same draft, right? Pearsall and Kool-Aid. And a lot of people had Kool-Aid mock draft to the San Francisco 49ers at pick 31. He ended up falling to the Saints early in round 2. And the Niners kind of surprised everybody going Ricky Pearsall at the end of round 1 in that draft last year. So yeah, it's I'm sure they're familiar with each other. Niners ended up taking Florida State guy in round 2 at corner, and Renardo Green has been real nice for the 49ers. So Niners got that one right.
And so Brian, same question to you. What if there's one matchup that you're looking at that the 49ers have to win in order to beat this New Orleans Saints team, what do they need to do in order to get another W this weekend?
Well, we talked about the run game. That's a given. The Saints and the 49ers are both going to try to run the ball, and they both have dynamic running backs who can catch the ball out of the backfield. So I think the 49ers are up to that task, and I think are better suited to both run the ball on the Saints and cover with Fred Warner and D Winters and, in that group to cover Alvin Kamara coming out of the backfield. So I do like that advantage for the San Francisco 49ers. How about this angle, though? And I'll tease it because we talked about it on the crossover show with Ross Jackson, the host of Locked On Saints, that will be coming up very soon on the Locked On 49ers channel. What about maybe an advantage for the Saints having Brandon Staley as their defensive coordinator? He was with the 49ers and kind of helping out on the offensive side of the ball. He probably learned a lot about Kyle Shanahan and how Kyle Shanahan wants to attack teams to give him an opportunity to utilize that information against the 49ers now as defensive coordinator of the New Orleans Saints. So, a little intel. And the same intel can't be said on the opposite side because Brandon Staley didn't run the defense. So he didn't give any secrets up to Kyle, but he got to get all of Kyle's secrets while he was here for a year.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that. That's an interesting point. I think the reason I didn't think about that is because he felt so inconsequential in his time here to me. And
the big thing is it doesn't matter because he's not as good as Kyle Shanahan. So you're going to lose that chess match every time.
Yeah, and we've obviously seen Staley's big brain ability down there in LA with the Chargers, and as smart as that guy must be. I'm not saying that he's not a smart guy. We've been told that he's kind of like one of those football geniuses by so many different people in the league, and everybody seems to agree that is the case. And I'm not disputing that at all. The one thing I do have a question about is him being able to translate all that big brain ability into an on-field successful plan of attack and wins. And that's the most important thing, right? It's wins. So we'll see how it all unfolds this weekend against the Saints. It's going to come a lot sooner than it feels like. We're already week 2, man. Like it's crazy how fast this season has jumped on us. It feels like just a couple weeks ago we were just talking about the concepts of this show, and now we're here right in the thick of it in week 2. And the 49ers traveling down to New Orleans to the Metrodome, and they'll take on this Saints team. 49ers looking to move to 2-0. Saints last week 1 looking to hang a second loss on those Saints. So we'll see what happens. We got to take one more quick break here. On the other side, we'll put a bow on it and get you guys some final scores. We got to get some predictions before we get on out of here, and we'll wrap up the show on the other side. I'm your host, Eric Triple E Engel. Don't go anywhere here on the Locked On 49ers Squad Show. Today's show is sponsored by Mazda. You can just move through life, or you can find things that move you. It's your choice. You can choose to get out there, choose your people. You can choose to go for it, like really, really go for it. Just choose to do something that moves you. Mazda crafts cars for those who choose to do more than simply move. Mazda, move and be moved. Welcome back to the Locked On 49ers Squad Show. I'm your host, Eric Triple E Engel, and the 49ers got a big game against the Saints coming up this weekend. A lot of injuries, a lot of moving parts for the 49ers, but the win is still there for the taking. So curious, before we get on out of here, we'll just to revisit last week's picks. Dwayne and I, we both picked the 49ers. Brian, he went Seahawks. So we got me and Dwayne sitting at 1-0. And none of us got the final score correct, although we were all kind of in the same ballpark. I'm sitting at 1-0, Dwayne's at 1-0, and Brian at 0-1. And curious, what do you guys got for this week, Dwayne? Let's start with you. What do you think is the end result in this one?
End result for this one, I got 17-9. 49ers.
17-9 49ers. I'm typing it right now.
We're getting 2 touchdowns from the defense.
Yeah,
2 touchdowns from the defense and 100 yards from Ricky Pearsall. Dwayne's planting the flag this week, man. Brian, what do you got?
There's going to be an Eddie Pinheiro field goal in there as the only scoring from the offense too. Okay, so I see how this game is going to go. I see it similarly. I think it's going to be a close football game. I think there's going to be a lot of parallels with what we saw last week with the Seattle Seahawks. And my bad, I sold Robert, or I want to call him Robert. I got to put some respect on his name. I want to call him Robert Tonyan. Jake Tonjes, I undersold him. I didn't realize he was going to come up big with the game-winning catch on a ball that Next Gen Stats said had only a 14.7% chance of being caught, and he went and took it away from Tariq Woolen for the game winner. So I missed that one, and the Niners came away with the victory. I think the 49ers are going to come out of this one with the victory. It might not be a runaway win. I think it's going to be a grinded-out, ugly game, kind of an ugly score like Dwayne's talking about. I'll give the Saints a few more points. They might even put one in the end zone, but maybe only one defensive touchdown for the 49ers. So I'm going to go 17-13. Actually, that was the same score as last week. So there you go. It's going to be a replay of week 1, 17-13. Niners getting out of there with a win on the road.
So what are you going to do when the kicker goes out? You going to put your head down? You going to put your head down? Or you going to get the goalpost?
We don't talk about kickers anymore. That's the whole point of changing kickers.
So we won't waste 45 minutes talking about a kicker no more. He's gone.
Yeah.
Whether it's
the only show that we talk that long about
money, gold, whatever currency you want to call your kicker,
crypto.
We're done talking about it.
Crypto.
Yeah, Dwayne's right. The only one we're missing is the crypto kicker. We gotta find a kicker with maybe the 49ers kicker next season. We'll be able to work in a cryptocurrency nickname for them. The Bitcoin kicker. But for my pick this week, I'm also going 49ers. We're all going Niners this week. It's the Saints. They're not a very good football team. They lack a lot of talent. It's not their fault that this team is kind of in a rebuilding phase right now. They don't really have a quarterback, and teams without a plan really at quarterback don't generally operate too well throughout the season. And I do expect the 49ers to win this one as well. I'm going to go ahead and say 2 field goals. So I'm going to say 20 to 10. We're going to get 2 field goals from the 49ers. I'm going to say 20-10 Niners win over the Saints. And maybe we'll get a defensive touchdown snuck in there as well. I like your thinking, Dwayne. I like your thinking.
All right.
Well, that's all the time that we got for you guys today here on the Locked On 49ers Squad Show. Thanks so much to everyone for tuning in. However you're tuning in, we appreciate it, whether it's on our YouTube channel, on the Locked On 49ers YouTube channel, or the Locked On 49ers podcast feed. However you're tuning in, we appreciate it. Please, please, please like, subscribe, follow the show, and we'll be coming to you live once per week, usually on Wednesdays throughout the season, and also we'll be coming to you live after Brian and Crocky finish up their rapid react after every single 49ers game this year. And if you did not go watch Brian's interview with Tabor Pepper and Crocky's interview with Tabor Pepper, make sure you're checking that out too next. That's what I'm going to be heading over to do right after we wrap up here. So shout out to Dwayne and Brian, as always, my guys, for joining me here on the Locked On 49ers Squad Show. We'll be back at it on Sunday after 49ers Saints, so don't miss out on that one. Thanks so much for tuning in. We'll see you next time. Peace.